begin. So, hey everyone, it's Melissa from ASI. I'm so excited for this episode of the Social Angle podcast. Today, we're talking about how to improve your social media presence. So we're going to talk about 4 things that you can do to improve your social presence right now. So in the second part of this, I'm so excited to be joined by Jeremy Picker. He is the CEO and he is the creative director of Amber Creative in Denver, Colorado. So Jeremy, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Morning, Melissa. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So I've been around custom apparel for probably 20 plus years. I was around it. My brother had a clothing line back when I was in junior high. And so I would go around to screen printers, embroiderers, cut and sew factories. I would help them in the warehouse. And so I got to see the inside behind the curtain of what goes into producing merchandise. You know, I wasn't planning on being in this industry. I wanted to be an engineer, but after Calculus 2, I said, forget that, and needed a new direction. And my brother, just with his relationships, doing what he was doing after I graduated college, he got me a job with a band merch company out of Nashville. Awesome. So I ended up living on the road, living on a bus for 10 years, selling merchandise for major label bands. And yeah, it was awesome experience on the retail side of things. And in 2008, I went to an old buddy of mine, and he worked for the band merch company that used to design and supply us on the road. And he's like, hey man, I have a business idea. I need someone that loves the creative and operations like you do. And he was more kind of on the sales, business, admin side of things. And so 2008, had no idea what I was doing, and decided to start our own company. And yeah, 10 years later, or actually 12 years later now, I still love it, and I'm not completely jaded yet. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I think you have like such interesting experience, and I feel like that must bring such a unique perspective to your company. You know, like you're able to offer something to your audience, to your customers that nobody else can. So I feel like that segues like really nicely into our first question, which is the importance of defining your mission statement. And how that can kind of be parlayed into your social media presence. So how did you define your mission statement for Amber Creative, and how does that play a part in your current social media presence?
Yeah, so I think it's evolved along the way. You know, I think when I first started, I'm like, oh, that's easy. I make product. You know, I print T-shirts, I embroider hats. But as time goes on, and as more people get into this crowded marketplace, it's ultimately in your best interest to figure out what is your lane. Mark Coudray, he was on this Shirt Lab, and he's like, the riches are in the niches, and really being able to find, you can't just be all things to all people. And when are you the best screen printer? Probably not. There's always going to be someone better. So really defining who your audience is. And, for us, we found that the religious and nonprofit space and the food and beverage space were kind of our niches. Okay. And so we had this long drawn out statement of who we thought we were and why we were different. And we brought in a consultant, I think probably 4 years ago, to help us with that story, because it's hard when you're in those trenches to really have a fresh perspective of what you do. You kind of know what you do, but how does the end consumer view you or your customer? So, a lot of the examples, she's like, look at some of the biggest companies in the world who spend millions on their branding and mission statement. Nike, just do it. Apple, think different. Coca-Cola, open happiness. McDonald's, I'm loving it. None of that talks about what they sell. It's not, hey, I'm the tchotchke guy, or it's who they what they do and like how they help in a kind of broad sense. And so the consultant was like, we need to figure out what you do. And we had a whiteboard, and I mean, just my whole team, we did thousands probably of what we thought we were, and how we help and why we're different. And after a few sessions, we landed on, we help solve creative problems with we help solve creative problems with fashionable solutions.
That's
So
so
really,
cool.
Defining it doesn't necessarily say anything about apparel or merchandise or promotional products.
Yeah.
It's saying you as a company have a creative problem, is getting people to wear your merchandise or to use your merchandise or to think about you next time, they put on that garment, or supporting your nonprofit. That's a problem that needs to be solved. Just printing a shirt isn't going to solve that.
Right.
Giving out a mug doesn't necessarily solve the problems that a company faces with getting new customers or raising more funds. And so the fashionable solutions, the way we are trying to define ourselves in the space is we approach this industry from a retail and fashion perspective or a lens versus manufacturing and supply.
Okay.
Our mission is, we know that getting a shirt printed or a mug made is not anyone's problem. You can go anywhere on the internet locally and get that made. But if no one uses the product, if no one wears the product, if your marketing dollars go to waste, or if you're not creating this engaging marketing campaign, then it does no one any good. And so going back to your question is really saying, how do we portray that on social? And I think it's hard, especially depending on what platform you like to focus on. But, for us, and I think it's evolving, because like sometimes I'll look at our feed and I'm like, we're showing too much product. We need to showcase more of how we're helping the customer in their marketing efforts. But, I think people also want to see that you can create quality product as well. So I think there's a balance there. But really, if we're helping people solve creative problems with fashionable solutions, how does that look like? Well, being a design firm first, we have to lead with good design, whether it's the product design or just displaying what we're posting on social media. So I think being able to, and this might, evolve a little bit, but being able to show them and let our visuals speak about who we are. You can get a lot about a company by going to their website. There's so many websites out there that are just, you don't want to do business with them because they're not showcasing anything other than, we make shirts or we make hats. And so I think you don't even have to be great at design to showcase in a nice visual way who you are. Again, actions are, the visuals are going to speak louder than what you're saying. People aren't going to listen to that. If you're saying, yeah, we're going to help you look good, to the masses, and your website is junk, that doesn't necessarily build confidence that you can help them accomplish their marketing goals.
No, and I love that answer. Honestly, I'm so glad you shared all of that, because to me, like, I just feel like it's the consistency piece. And I feel like that tagline, I think a lot of people overthink it, where they're like, again, just like you guys thought it was worthwhile to hire a consultant to help you boil everything down. It's like, you don't want to miss an important piece that represents like who you are as a company, like your unique vision. And you don't want to miscommunicate that, because you want to make sure you're getting yourself in front of like the right audience, the right customer. So you boil down, like the 3 different categories of the types of people that you serve, but you're looking at it holistically, which I love from a marketing perspective. I'm so excited, because it's not just about like, all right, we're going to fulfill this order on to the next thing. It's about like, what is the problem? What is the aspiration? Like, what am I trying to help you achieve? What am I trying to help you solve? What is the unique solution I can provide you? Like, when you sign on to work with me, that you're not going to get anywhere else, So I love that, all this work went into it. And I think this is really great for our audience to see, so they can know, like, this isn't something that, you know, shouldn't be just like a write-off, like, oh, we did this. You know, it should be something you really think about. You know, you have your whole team involved, your important stakeholders, you know, they have an important voice in your brand and from their own unique professional perspective. And then what does that mean for you as a company? And I like that it's evolved too, because I think a lot of people as well, you know, they think it's a fixed thing, you know, but your business evolves. You know, like, what if you add a new category of clientele, a new market? You know what I mean? Especially with everything going on in COVID, maybe that'll change. But right now, like, that sum up of a sentence, like, says everything. If I saw that in an Instagram bio, I'd be like, I get it. You know, if I saw that on your LinkedIn profile, I would get that. Same with, you know, I know you're on TikTok, I know you're on Twitter. So I'm really glad you also mentioned the design aspect. So ensuring consistent and quality branding across networks. Like, I think your feeds look incredible. I think that this is sometimes an aspect that people can get tripped up on, because maybe they feel like, you know, I'm not a graphic designer. I don't have, you know, a great grasp on like Adobe Creative Suite. I've never opened Canva. You know, how can I make sure that there's consistency? And it sounds like you've thought a lot about that. So how have you ensured consistency and quality branding across your social media channels?
Yeah, I think it's hard to do if you don't have a brand guideline kind of as a blueprint. You know, I know Jay.
Preach. Amen.
You know, Jay pushes it, and Jay's actually helping me to bring out some more of that why and how people see us. It's kind of the next iteration. I feel like we have the design assets, but the brand guidelines much more than that. So really, you, especially if you're in a bigger company, you need this more so, because you're going to have so many different people, whether it's sending, you know, briefs to your client for quotes, whether it's, you know, letterhead or marketing. There needs to be this kind of cohesiveness to it. And I think having that brand guidelines lets you come back to it and say, does this represent us well across the board? And how we've done it, we've created templates for tall, wide, and square that we could use on all social platforms.
Oh my God. Like, snaps, snaps for you and your team. I love it. It's so awesome.
It takes time. You got, like, our style 2 years ago or 3 years ago is very different than it is now. We were very driven on the little icon, like really simple art, simple line designs and patterns. And I think that caught on. Not, I'm saying we were a leader, but we just started seeing everyone do it. When Custom Ink got their new boxes and they were basically the same kind of style as ours, we were like, all right, it's time to change, because the big beast, you know, is kind of getting better on the design side. But really being able to showcase, hey, if we like this look, let's make it work for each platform. You know, nothing worse than having a distorted image, or you're trying to use this wide format image on a tall Insta story and it's all cut off, or you have to shrink it. Is being intentional, you know? And I think that's easy. Anyone can outsource to get that designed, to say, hey, design something for us. And for us, we have 8 different colors, you know, like different patterns that we're trying to lead with. But to start off, company just get one back that is going to be consistent with your logo, with your colors. And then whoever's doing your marketing, if they have the right fonts, the right graphics, then they can add to it using Canva. I mean, that's so easy. Or, you know, Adobe, just to customize it a little more. But that, it all started there, because you can have the same voice as far as on the text and content side, but then if your designs are all over the place, there's going to be some confusion. And why have to try to think of content and design? I think that's what holds people back. Either, you know, it doesn't look good or it's not consistent. take the time to create templates like internally. That way it makes it easy to say, all right, Monday, here's this template with this text, or I'm going to showcase this t-shirt on this background. And it creates this consistency that if they go to your website, if they're going to your social, when you send them a quote, or you work on your CRM, they're seeing the same colors, the same fonts, the same iconography. And so I think that's been a good way for us to keep consistent on that. And, we'll add to it and our tastes change, but having that internal set of assets is important, because most people aren't creatives. Most people aren't designers.
Yeah.
So their taste level might not be up to what your company represents.
Right.
And just letting everyone have a free-for-all is doing no good for your brand.
Oh my God, everything that you said, so many good points. So firstly, having a guide, and then I think also too as well, having those assets accessible to all like team members, like anybody, like from the person who's your email marketing specialist, your social media manager, your graphic designer, like having that like ready to go for your team is so important. Because like you said, that free for all, like you don't want people to come to your digital assets and they're just like, well, I went to this bomb website, I loved it, it was so cool, I want to just like check out their Instagram, like I know that he works a lot in apparel, like let me look at some of the designs and things that he's done. And then you go to that Instagram page and it's like a mess and they're like, is this the same company? And I think sometimes people they think like, is that the quality of work? You know what I mean? And also too, like you said, not everybody is a designer. Everybody has their skill set, and that's totally okay. Like we can make something and it can become better. We can make a mistake. We learn from it. We become better, but you can set yourself up from like success from setting up a workflow that kind of sets you up for success, having those assets in a central location, having them defined, and then like using a tool that's where you're at for your skill set. Like I know for me, I can mess around with Adobe Creative Suite, but Canva, I can resize the same image. If I'm going to have the similar banner with my logo and colors, I have that for LinkedIn. I have that for my Facebook. I can do that in 15 minutes. So I feel like there's so many tools out there now for the beginner that makes this easy. And when you're thinking about creating your page, which I had shared earlier in this episode during my social audit, just having all of that ready to go. Like you feel like you're solid on TikTok, you feel like you're solid on Instagram. I'd like to create a Facebook business page, like having all of that ready to go kind of sets you up for success. So I like that. And then also too, if you feel like maybe you don't have the time, you're somebody, if you're a business owner, you often wear, many hats, like,
oh yeah.
Right. So
I've already changed 3 on this call. I have my third hat's on and there's fires, but I think that's the beauty of having that, having that freedom to there's no excuse at the end of the day to say, I don't have time, because none of us have time, but good leaders are delegating, they're outsourcing. There's anyone that is listening here or, part of our promotional products community that's active on social, like you're going to learn there's so many people out there that could help you or give you, ways to find free templates or, use Fiverr, different design. Again, you might not have the design that, a big firm has, but there's no excuse nowadays to not at least have something that's visually pleasing to the consumer.
Yeah. And I think you make an excellent point. Like I want like somebody to make like a bumper sticker or, promo product for like good leaders delegate. Cause honestly, like that's what, they do. It's recognizing like it's not being totally removed from the process, but like, hey, people have families, they only have so many hours in a day and like an 8-hour workday, 40 hours a week. And I'm sure for you, much more than that. So it's like, if you're somebody who owns your own business and you feel like maybe the design aspect or the visual or brand aspect of social media is kind of throwing you, like delegate to somebody else. Like Fiverr, like
Yeah.
you said, is a great tool. There's Upwork. I mean, there's even people
Mhm.
sometimes in your local community, you know, like ask your peers, like, who are you
Yeah.
using? You know what I mean? Who would you recommend to me? Because I really want to make sure that this is in order. Because like you said, you know, not to put the pressure on, but there's really no excuse because there's a plethora of options, you know?
For
So
sure.
excellent points. So many gems, Jeremy. I love it. So the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about is showing great content. Now, that might mean something different to a lot of people, but what I have loved about your social media channels, and you can kind of share about the ones individually that you're on, you know, for some people maybe
Yeah.
listening who want to go and look you up and see some of your examples. I love the behind the scenes. I love the production quality. I love the branding. I love like the authority, and I love the fact that, you know, you guys have like a little fun, like on TikTok, like I see some of the viral trends that you guys participate on. I think you guys do really great behind the scenes where it's like, it conveys like a sense of warmth, but the production quality really conveys like the expertise that you guys have. And I think that's cool, you know, and that's a hard kind of hat trick to convey on social, but I think you guys do it well. Like when I read your LinkedIn profile, when I was learning kind of more about you and Amber, I was like, oh my God, his about like page, like single tier, like it's great because I knew exactly like what you did. And it's like those opportunities to like just delight your customer, you know, give that little nugget to help them like learn more about you, like don't miss that opportunity. So how do you define great content for your company, and how does that parlay into the social media channels that you guys own?
Yeah, you know, I think, or I don't think great content is my decision at the end of the day. I think it's the audience, you know,
Okay.
do they find it great? You know, I know what I know, but I also am very I'm very ingrained in our industry, and I have a philosophy that might not sit well with others. But part of it is Gary Vee. I heard the other day, he said quantity brings quality, you know, and I know a lot of quantity, if it's not quality, you know, is just a waste of time. But in order to find your lane and your voice and what makes great content for your audience is you have to try, you got to experiment, you got to not worry about, is this awesome at first? You know, I think people get paralyzed and don't post because it's not perfect, or, you know, what are people going to think? Or, you know, if I put myself out there, am I going to look silly? I think getting over that is the biggest step with social media, because
Mm-hmm.
if you can't be your authentic self, you know, it's just going to look robotic. It's going to seem like it's a corporation talking to someone, instead of, like you said, behind the scenes, showing people that you have a soul, you are a human, you know, you are there to help people. And I think, you know, part of my audience helps me figure out what is great content. And
Ooh.
some is coming from analytics, is what posts are getting, you know, time is obviously important, but what posts are resonating with your followers currently. And for me, I had a post the other day. It had nothing to do with apparel, but it was my most engaged and liked post.
May I
On
ask what it was about? Is that okay?
Yes, so it
Not to
was
put you on the
saying,
spot.
no, I know it talked about how you shouldn't be so salesy on LinkedIn. It was get to know me before you automatically pitch, because if you haven't looked at my profile, if you haven't followed my content, if you haven't even liked what I'm sharing, how do you know that you can help me? You don't even
Yeah.
know my problems. You don't even know what I'm about. I might be selling the same thing as you are. So by not even getting to know someone, I think that I was saying, dear LinkedIn connections, stop trying to sell me without even liking my post. And it
Yes.
ended up 7,000 views, 122 reactions, and 75 comments. And that was
Nice.
more than any of my apparel stuff. But obviously, it ties back to the apparel thing, because I used to try to do that on LinkedIn as sell, and people just ignored me, or I wasn't getting content. Gary Vee obviously is an influence of mine, and he's just like, give, and then ask, I'm still in the giving phase. Like, I want the sell, I want to get that, but I want the relationship. I don't want the order. If they use me and we're not the right fit, I've put a lot of time in setting up that customer, and they're not going to be with me long term. I want to brainwash, in a way, the people that want to work with me. And there was a Shirt Lab Summit, and one of my industry buddies, Justin McKibben of Melmark, they're a ginormous screen printing house in LA. And he said, stop trying to convince people to value what you value. You're going to waste your time trying to say, hey, a better garment matters, or better design matters. He's like, instead of wasting your time trying to convince people, align yourself with people that value the things you value. Yeah, it's going to be harder. You're not going to be able to do the shotgun approach of trying to get new business. But again, I'm the people on LinkedIn, and that's just who engages. There's probably people who follow me and looking at my content that never like, that never share, but they're watching. And there's going to be a piece of content that resonates with them to say, hey, my current provider isn't offering me that. Yeah, they give me a good price and the product, but they're not helping me showcase my brand more. They're not helping me on social media. They're not giving me these free tips. And this guy doesn't even work with me. And so I think that great content is going to come from trying and seeing what works. And it's not going to all be great. It's going to be that whole 80-20, only 20% of your content is going to be, I think, engaged and resonate with people. The other 80%, they're not going to even see it. So again, that's where that consistency comes into play, that you don't know when that person or your current clients or a potential client is going to land on your content. So if you're only posting once a week, you're pretty much guaranteeing only 5-10% of people might even see that. So you are wasting your time in a way that it's not getting into the hands that you want it to. Just showing that you make t-shirts all day, there's millions of people doing that. So how are you going to stand out from the crowd? And again, that comes in your social strategy. Are you pushing people, to learn more about you? One thing that I find hard is creating funnels and landing pages of, hey, we need to push our social to our website, and we want people to that be the epicenter. But then on the other hand, don't just post links on social that post back to your blog. Right. No one's going to do that. You need to have unique content for the platforms, and then coming to your website, is a secondary. I see a big agency that I follow. They're big in our space, but all they're doing on LinkedIn is sharing the link from their blog. They get less than 5 likes. No one cares. No one is gonna just go out of LinkedIn where they are just to read your blog. You're not even telling me why I should go read your blog. It's just linking. Yeah, it has a cool title, but the tactics that used to work, LinkedIn's algorithm, they want you to stay on their platform. Same with Twitter. Yep. With Instagram. So once you start linking outside of their platform, your reach is already going to be lowered. So I think having a balance, having that original, unique content, and then, ultimately we all need sales. We all need to stay in business. But for me, I've decided I want to stay boutique-like, and I can't help everyone. So I need to find my audience, and it's just that it's taken experiment, coming on podcasts. I've been writing for industry magazines for 1.5 years now. And it's awesome. Finally paying off as far as getting reach, getting people to know my philosophy, who I am. It doesn't necessarily translate into sales all the time. I'm getting more interaction with people in our industry than the end consumer. I thought by getting out of my cave and being social on social media was going to get to the end client or the consumer, but it's resonating with people in our industry. So I'm kind of focusing on that, and maybe hopefully eventually, you know, it'll equate to sales, but it helps our company no matter what, because I'm getting it from my head down to paper. And then, is it even resonating with people? Is it great content to them, or is it only I think it's great and no one cares?
You know what? I love your answer, because again, so many great gems where I feel like, you know, what a sense of relief. Like there's probably like a little bit of, I think for some people when they make that decision in their marketing channels that they're not going to be everything to everyone, you know, where they just kind of lean into that alignment. But there's so much power in that, you know, because I feel like you said you can focus on the relationship building aspect with somebody, you know, because it's not just about like, again, for you and your company, you know, like that has been the cadence throughout this conversation. Like for you guys, it's not just about the sale. Like you're thinking long term about the relationship you're building with this client, how you can help them, how you can continue to help them, you know, maybe how you can bring insight and education to them on something that maybe they're not even aware of and give them a solution, you know, like to me, I feel like the alignment piece is important because it helps you craft like your content strategy from your branding, your messaging, and then also, you know, for you going back to what you were saying before about seeing what resonates and them kind of dictating that. Like you might have one idea about what's going to be popular, but maybe like, you know, for you appearing on a podcast, you know, that gets better engagement for you. So that's something that, you know, hey, in the next couple of months, I'm going to pop on to some of my, you know, industry colleagues, you know, podcasts and share my thoughts on topic A, B, and C, because that really inspires and engages my audience. It's meaningful to them. And like you said, also the consistency piece, you know, like if you're going to go in and pick a channel, like, you know, social media is an interesting marketing channel because a lot of people use it personally, right? You know, it's something that your 12-year-old kid does, but it's also something that a major corporation uses to get, you know, their awareness out in front of their audience. So it's like, what's the right approach? Is it something that's frivolous? Is it something that I should take serious? But I always lean towards the second, which is it's a subset of your marketing plan, which supports your overall business goals. So like, if you're picking that, you know, what are the goals that you're trying to accomplish? So for you, like you're trying to push traffic back to your website, you're trying to bring people into a sales funnel, you know, you're trying to create that awareness piece, that interest, and you're doing it consistently. And that's why, I mean, you know, from what is it, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, is there any other social media platforms that you're on that maybe I've missed? I mean, everything I've seen has been so good and consistent, you know, and I think that you know, like you said, you're seeing the payoff because of that. You know?
Yeah, I love Pinterest.
Okay, Pinterest.
I use Pinterest a lot. I haven't, it's more of my hobby, but I also use it as a mood board collection for my customers. So I link my customers to a Pinterest board, let's say of specialty inks or custom tie-dye or promotional ideas. I'm using that to curate social proof, market research, what other brands are doing.
Cool.
And I'm also using it as my image library in my, you know, to go back and reference, oh, I remember this idea for this customer. You know, I have some private boards that I share directly with my customer, and they'll add stuff that they like to the Pinterest board. And that way they're not always having to like explain what they're looking for. We create this foundation of visuals of saying, this is my brand aesthetic. This is the things I like. So when they say, hey, we have this new event or we want this new campaign and we want a t-shirt or an item around it, they don't have to always start from scratch. We already know what they're looking for aesthetically. And then we can go direct to the design phase of it because we're constantly adding to this inspiration vault. So Pinterest, definitely, you know, I think the hardest part on a lot of things is making them work together. So a lot of gurus are saying, you need to be everywhere. You need to be omnipresent because you don't know when that person, where they're going to find the content. So by having content on all platforms, you're making it easier for people to find you. But Instagram is better for B2C from what I've seen than LinkedIn. LinkedIn's B2B. So if you're in the B2B space, which most of us are, or all of us are, you need to be on LinkedIn. Should be one of your top strategies. Not only is the organic reach amazing, people are in a business mindset. People are, if they want a designer, they might go to Instagram or Dribble to find someone that has cool style. But B2B, the buyers connecting with people that are the decision makers, that, you know, recruiters that, who knows, they might see your content, and when you're going to hire someone, you post it on LinkedIn and they're like, hey, I have a perfect candidate. You'll never find that from Craigslist. You know, we put a lot of our job descriptions there, but LinkedIn is a great place because it's in the business mentality. You know, I think it's hard B2B, and when you're service based with a product, it's hard that we've tried pay-per-click ads. We've done all the paid advertisement. It's never yielded us a quality lead, and we've hired big firms. So we've decided we're going to focus again on finding a fewer perfect clients than a ton of clients that might not come back. You know, companies like 4imprint and Custom Ink, they're looking for volume. They're looking for an order, not necessarily a relationship. They need volume, knowing that most people will never come back. You know, I've chosen not to do that. I want to give my time to people that deserve it, not that need it.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God. There's just so much, like, there's so many good things that are going to come out of this for our audience. I can't wait to share it, Jeremy. And I feel like, you know, a lot of what you've shared has been actionable. And I feel like that's the thing that I want people to come away specifically for this episode is social media does take time, effort, and talent. But we all have to start somewhere, and there's simple things that you can do to improve your presence right now to make it better for your audience, so you can get your content in front of the right people so they want to inquire about you, work with you, and you can, you know, help them with their aspiration or solve their problem. So is there anything else you'd like to add for today?
Yeah, I mean, I think people have opinions, like strong opinions on different social media, and like, but they have no experience. They just think this won't work for my business, or think they don't have time for it. But I think you don't have time not to, especially with this.
Excellent.
I think this pandemic changed a lot of our mentalities, a lot of our focus. You know, for me, I've opened up my product offerings to print on demand, to DTG, stuff I never even wanted to because I'm a t-shirt snob. I didn't like DTG. You know, I didn't like print on demand. Yes, it has its limits, but it has its benefits. People are going to be scared of inventory. So being able to meet the customer's needs, you have to really define that. And I think you can't have opinions if you've never tried. If you've tried and failed, then I'll listen to you. But if you're saying, I don't have time for Instagram, or I don't have time for TikTok, again, it might not be here next week, but you know, LinkedIn or Twitter, I think let the audience decide that. Let your customers decide that. Don't just say that because you think that's the right way. You got to try. You got to look dumb a few times. You're not going to make it right the first time or the second or the 100th, but just try. You need to differentiate yourself from every other person out there. You know, we have a large industry, and there's, you know, the barrier to entry is very low. So how are you going to stand out? And the only way people are going to know how you stand out is by telling them and being the experts. I think too many people in our industry just take orders as far as let the customer dictate it. Let the customer submit the design. Let the customer decide, instead of us stepping up and doing this day in and day out. Is social media creates authority, and our good content, you know, on social media consistently creates authority, because a lot of those things that you're trying to get out through social, you can bring that into your company culture and your glossary of terms. So everyone's saying those things, not just the owner or not just a marketing manager. You need to take those things that resonate with on social and bring it into your organization, so everyone's on that same page. And when they ask, hey, what does Amber do? you're not having 10 different, well, I only have 4 employees, but we don't have 5 different people saying different things. There's going to be that consistency, and you need to brainwash your staff just as much as the people that you want to work with. And brainwash, I'm not saying manipulate, I'm just saying get them to think or to adapt your philosophy.
Yeah, they're an extension of you and your mission statement, you know, like they represent you and your company. I totally get that. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jeremy. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you. I'm sure this went longer than planned, but yeah, I appreciate you having me, and